The unfortunate news I have to bear now for the taxpayers is that we haven't learned enough from what happened in Iraq or Afghanistan to assure the taxpayers of our country that we won't repeat the errors of the past.
In tonight's Waste Watch, $8 billion wasted, $300 million recovered in fraud, and more than 100 criminal convictions as a result of spending in post-Iraq recovery efforts.
That's not a pretty story, and as the U.S. now wages war against ISIS, there is new concern that we're setting ourselves up for billions more in taxpayer dollars just to be wasted. Fox 17's Erica Curry joins us now in studio with a report that pretty much says it all.
That's right, Scott. You know, the report is about 100 pages, and it was first presented to Congress a year ago this month. But the Inspector General for Iraq Reconstruction says it could now be updated, putting the price of waste from Iraq up to about $30 billion. And the worst news is we're right on track to repeat the same mistakes.
We spent $8 billion in the governance sector. We spent $2.5 billion in the oil sector. We spent $2 billion in the water sector.
Altogether, about $61 billion was spent on reconstruction and recovery following the Iraq War. Bowen says the rate of spending on these projects was about $20 billion in a 2-year period. But due to poor oversight, a lot of that money was wasted in ways unknown to American taxpayers.
One is simply the project doesn't get done. For example, there was a prison that was supposed to be built north of Baghdad. We spent $40 million, never got built. Our inspectors went out and found just a pile of rubble.
Bowen's office, Special Inspector General for Iraq Reconstruction, was created by Congress in 2003. He spent almost 10 years leading it, traveling to Iraq 35 times for audits and investigations into fraudulent spending, waste, and abuse before the office was closed last fall. But the amount of taxpayer money he sees as wasted keeps adding up.
We spent half that money training the Iraqi army and police, and I guess given events this summer, we might need to revise our waste figure of last year, given how poorly the Iraqi security forces performed in the face of ISIS's advance.
The Special Inspector General says a large blame for this waste lies in the fact that Iraq was so unstable.
We continued to push forward with a rebuilding program that ultimately exceeded $60 billion, and that itself was a wasteful decision.
He says there's an important lesson from this waste investigation, but he's concerned that those making decisions haven't learned from it. He suggests as we enter war against ISIS, not going forward with substantial post-war spending on rebuilding and relief activity in unstable zones, and make sure someone is clearly in charge of the operations. Bowen says if Congress doesn't address these issues with the Department of Defense and State, we'll see the same mistakes happen after this war.
It's crucial that the United States government prepare better so that we never have fiascos like we've seen in Iraq and Afghanistan's rebuilding programs again.
Bowen tells me well over half to 3/4 of what the U.S. spent in Iraq is now gone without a purpose. But there is something taxpayers can do. Contact your congressman and ask them to look at and consider a bill which would create a U.S. Office for Contingency Operations. That office would plan for future operations like this. Erica Curry, Fox 17 News.
And you can see all of our Waste Watch stories online at fox17.com. And you can submit ideas for other Waste Watch stories just by clicking the Waste Watch tab.